And welcome. You are Locked On Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstead, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor at Mavs.com. The winning wonder, the one more thinking. What you got for me, Isaac?
Okay, was this a win not only for the Dallas Mavericks, but for Mavs Twitter? Because it's not very often that you find a specific thing that a fan base has almost united on. There weren't a ton of people out there that was not wanting more minutes for Willie, Cauley, Stein, but it was majority of the fan base on Twitter. And bam, it happened. And not only did it happen, but it happened and it went very, very well. So I think if there was a moment for, if you could put Mavs Twitter into a actual person, they're walking right now with their chest puffed out and pretty happy right now after this Rockets win.
They're very excited. Mavericks win against the Houston Rockets. We will break down the 113-100 win over the Rockets, where Luca had another triple-double, and your boy, Tim Hardaway Jr., 30 points off the bench. I'm going to say his dad was in attendance. There were fans, and I'm going to say his dad was there.
I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask you.
I'm gonna throw that out there at the beginning. I'm gonna say conspiracy theory. His dad was there, but we'll get to that. Today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. Go to BuiltBar.com. Use the promo code Locked On. You get 20% off your next order. Also use the promo code Locked. Just try that one too. All right, let's get into this game. There's so much stuff to break down. I don't want to bury the lead though. Luca and Tim Hardaway. This game was so wild. I'm gonna have to watch this game twice to understand what was going on most of the game. There's just so many weird calls. So many things happened. We had 6 techs in the first, I don't know, like 28-minute game. It was just such a weird game overall. And so we'll try to break it down for you as best we can remember. Boogie Cousins gets ejected in 3 minutes, like literally 3 minutes of game time he was out there. So many things, but I don't want to bury the lead. Luca and Tim Hardaway Jr. were the big story of this game. Luca has 33 points, 16 boards, 11 assists in just under 38 minutes. He becomes all kinds of records, right? Like there's so many things that are flying around Twitter right now. He has the most triple doubles under the age of 22 in the NBA ever. I think that's been done. I think he has 26. And StatMuse tweeted out the next 2 highest players combined, Magic Johnson and Ben Simmons, combined for 25. Wow. Most triple-doubles before turning 22. We talked about the streak of Luca scoring at least 25 points with 15 rebounds or more. And the Mavericks were 6-0. The Mavericks now move on to 7-0 for his career on that. So that was a big stat as well. So many just stats flying around. They're all over the place. But what did you think about Tim Hardaway Jr. and Luca? Their combined effort, they combined for 63 points. Just an absolute awesome effort from both of them.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like I almost have to separate the two. First off, I mean, we woke up yesterday morning not knowing if we would even have Luka Doncic and James Harden in the ball game. I mean, this could have very well been Christian Wood versus, Willie, Cauley, Stein or Tim Hardaway Jr. Because, James Harden missed the Rockets last game. Luka missed the game before that in Chicago. So, throughout the day, we're getting these injury updates that Luka was probable, the quad injury, which he did talk about post-game after the Rockets game and said that, it wasn't a serious injury. He did have to ice it and stuff. So
he said it was he said it was nothing.
He said it was not a serious injury, but he did say he iced it and stuff. So anyway, they both played, which was amazing to watch. And they both guarded each other a lot. I thought that was really cool to just watch as just an NBA fan. Just throw that. I just love seeing the best players on both teams guard each other, no matter who it is. So I thought that was a lot of fun. Yeah, Luka was just incredible tonight. And I mean, he was top 5 player in the league, incredible MVP, incredible, Tim McMahon from ESPN brought it up after, the game and, kind of asked Rick about where Luka's at with conditioning still. It's been a big thing. And, he talked about the timeline, and we've talked about it before on this podcast a lot that, for everyone, including us and players and people across the league and, throughout the organizations across the league, they were hearing this February, sometimes even March timeline for this restart for the NBA season. And so you have these players like Luka and some of these guys going back home overseas, different countries, Kristaps Porzingis choosing to do an offseason, surgery. And bam, in a matter of 2 weeks, if you guys listen to this, remember that this whole plan came about. It's like, we're starting NBA season at the end of December. And
early, everyone thought.
Yeah, so it was just that part is just crazy to think about. And, Rick acknowledging that post game and saying that just messed Luca's whole offseason routine out of whack because he thought he had more time. So, yeah, it's taken Luca a little bit more time to get in the groove, but tonight was a positive sign that he looked like normal Luca. And I thought he was incredible from the very beginning tonight, running with Willie, Cauley, Stein. We'll talk more about that. But, yeah, until the very end, I thought he was great defensively. I guess it is the best game for Luca this season so far.
Yeah, I think definitely one of his best games. The point about him not knowing the season starting, this is something we kind of knew, but we haven't talked about it enough on this podcast about Luca not knowing exactly when the start of the season was, planning his offseason. And you might think, well, he should be ready, right? Even they gave him enough time, enough notice. There was enough time for him to get in shape, but he was in Slovenia. He was overseas. He didn't have access to the same kind of equipment, the same kind of stuff that they had over here, if he was in Market, if he was in Dallas. So that was big difference for him. Didn't have access to, didn't he say he didn't have access to a court for a while? I remember hearing him say something like that. So anyway, that should matter. However, the dude still balls, right? Guy goes out there and just the comparison, the parallel. I like how you mentioned that James Harden and Luca guarded each other a lot because just seeing them guard each other, they have the same tricks, right? They have the same things that they do. They have the same footwork. Even that little thing where they rock back and forth and dribble between their legs, especially when they're switched, a big is switched onto them, they do that exact same thing. And so just to see the two of them watch each other do that, and Harden had a couple, I think he had 3 tip passes or steals off of Luca, passes.
They think alike. They think really similar offensively too with their passes. It's crazy.
Yeah, so because he knew what he was going to do. He's like, oh, this is what I would do. I'm going to go ahead and tip this pass, and I'm going to go. It was really cool to watch. It was fun to watch. It was way more fun to watch because Luca got the best of him, right? Luca had 33 in this game. Harden only finishes with 21, just only, and 10 assists. He was a 5 of 17 from the floor, 3 of 11 from 3, and he hit 8 of his 10 free throws, but he was a minus 24 for the game. So Luca was absolutely incredible. He was great in this game. How many did he finish? 16 rebounds were huge. It just felt like when the Rockets went small a couple of times, especially with DeMarcus Cousins out, we'll mention he went out in 2 minutes and 53 seconds. He had 2 technical fouls, and the second one was absolutely ridiculous. It was dumb. Shouldn't have happened. But with him out, they only had Christian Wood was their only big man because PJ Tucker is, we count him as a big man. He played center for them and stuff, but Luka's bigger than him. In both ways. He's taller than him and he's wider than him. So Luca was able to get the rebound. There was times when Luca was the biggest guy on the floor in this game, which is absolutely crazy. But the rebounding from him was awesome and definitely needed. Tim Hardaway.
Everybody. Yeah, I think that was a big thing. I mean, Mavericks have been struggling rebounding the basketball, and they won the rebounding matchup tonight, 51-35. That's a good chunk. Entering the fourth quarter, they had I think it was a 13. I think it was 40-27 as far as the rebounding difference. And you're like, hey, some of you might be listening to this or watching this on WFAA and saying, all right, why you care so much about rebounds? Because they've been getting killed on the board. So we've been watching these rebounding matchup numbers, and they really rebounded the basketball well tonight.
Yeah, the Rockets kind of look like the Mavericks in some stints, right? Getting out rebounded. 3-ball wasn't really going down for them. They shot 11 of 40 from 3. They didn't turn the ball over that much. They had 12 turnovers in the game. They hit a lot of their free throws and got a bunch of free throws, but it just wasn't working for them in certain ways. And so the Mavericks were really able to take advantage of some of those weaknesses that they usually have against other teams. So coming up, I want to get into some more about Tim Hardaway. We have to talk about him, and then we'll get into the game, break down what happened, how the Mavericks pulled this off. So we'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, Isaac Harris. BetOnline.ag is the place to go. It's the only place that has you covered, the number one place that we trust. It's BetOnline.ag. Go there right now. There's all kinds of lines that you can find. We've been looking them all up and down. The Mavericks are still third as far as odds to win the Western Conference. I think it's the Lakers, Clippers, and then the Mavericks are tied next with the Nuggets and them. And I'm not sure about those odds, but if you really feel good about it, I think it's plus like 1,100 if you want to go bet the Mavericks to win the Western Conference. I guess it could still happen. The comeback starts now. You can also bet on all kinds of stuff. You can go bet on the college football playoff. You can go bet on the NFL playoffs. They're definitely coming up. I'm looking right now. The Bills are 6.5-point favorite over the Colts. You have the Seahawks, a 4.5-point favorite over the Rams. You have the Bucks, 9-point favorite over the Washington football team. So a bunch of different odds there. Go check it out. BetOnline.ag. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore. Get in on the action. Don't forget to use that promo code LOCKEDON to receive a 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into some more about this game. There's so much to get to, so many things to talk about. And 2020 is mercifully over. It's time for a fresh start and a few more wins. If you're betting this year and you want more wins, you heard us talk about betonline.ag, but you're like, how do I get started? Go listen to Locked On Bets. It's totally worth your time. Your boy Q and Lee Sterling of Paramount Sports are picking college football, college basketball, NBA locks all winter long. Subscribe to Locked On Bets wherever you get your podcasts. All right, let's get into this game. Tim Hardaway Jr. finishes with season high for sure, and maybe his high in a while. 30 points. Finally, he doesn't score 18, right? He had 18 points 3 games in a row. Finally cracks that. So 30 points, 7 boards as well. Another guy that was getting some boards. Plus 18. He was the only Maverick off the bench that had a positive plus-minus. And so he finishes with a positive plus-minus. In that game. Isaac just completely, I lost Isaac for a second. All right, he's back.
I lost you. Why do you lose me? I lost you.
I didn't go anywhere. Tim Hardaway, what did you think about him in this game? He hit 8 of his 10 threes, like just absolutely on fire. It kind of felt like a game he needed. It felt like Jalen Brunson's game against the Bulls, right? He just needed that breakout game. Finally, he had it. And hopefully this carries over, because it didn't really for Brunson, but hopefully it carries over for Tim.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, I guess if you want to pick the lead to this game or the main storyline, I think Luca's going to get the publicity for this game nationally. But for everyone else, what we started this whole podcast with, it was the starting lineup change. And the fact that Carlisle looked at the starting lineup and said, and he even said this post game, he said, when I make lineup changes, I don't like to do just one change. I like to kind of do 2 guys. And he looked at it and he said, we talked about it as a staff, and he said that they wanted to get bigger and better defensively and more physical to help on the defensive end. So they took Tim Hardaway Jr. and Dwight Powell and moved them to the second unit. And, Tim came off the bench a little bit last year, but once he became a starter again, then he was good to go. He had a credible season, 40% from 3 and all of that. This year he's been shooting 30, I want to say 37%.
32% before this game.
All right, so I mean, he went 80% tonight from 3, hitting 8 of 10, which is crazy. And
a little bit,
yeah, it will. But and he was asked about it after the game, naturally, back coming off the bench and having a big night, and he said, "Hey, that was coach's decision, and you got to be a pro." He's like, "That's just part of it," and he knows that if it's for the better of the team, and he said it, he's like, "Well, day one since I got here." Whatever I have to do for the team comes first. And he just seems like an incredible teammate, and he had an amazing night, and that's what that second unit needs sometimes. And so, yeah, I couldn't be happier for him. And the Mavericks desperately need, this running like joking theory that I've been throwing out there to start the season. I'm like, all right, if there's a second guy who gets over 20 points alongside Luca, will they win? Well, they had 2 guys hit 30 tonight, and they won. So let's keep the theory going.
The theory was last year if a third guy got 20. That was what the Mavericks needed last year. They had Luca and KP would score 20, and then they needed a third guy, whether it was Tim or Curry or somebody else get 30. But yeah, Tim Hardaway just lights out. I mean, just one of those games where everything's dropping for him. Hopefully that continues. He did have fans in the stands, so I'm going to stick with my theory that his dad, that senior, was in the audience. The other thing, though, a new development with Tim Hardaway Jr.
Uh-oh.
It was Mom's birthday.
Yeah.
It was Mama Hardaway's birthday. So that's another connection now. So every January 4th, remember that. Every January 4th, Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to go off because it's his mom's birthday. So we have the dad theory, and now we have the mom's birthday theory. Maybe the mom thing will last longer. But so Tim Hardaway, he was just a revelation off the bench. And Carlisle made I should have teased this, but he made a wild comparison for Tim Hardaway Jr. after the game.
Yeah.
This totally threw me off. he started talking about Tim Hardaway Jr. coming off the bench. And he also used that word pro. Tim Hardaway used it, that he, I got to be a pro and, just do everything I can for the team. He said all the right things. Carlisle also said he took it like a pro, saying that he was going to be coming off the bench. He just wants to do what's best for the team, took it like a pro. And the guy that he compared him to from the 2011 run for the Dallas Mavericks was Deshaun Stevenson. Of all the players on this team, would you have compared Tim Hard? We would obviously put James Johnson first. I might put Trey Burke before then, like maybe even Brunson a little bit. There's just Josh Richardson, definitely. You'd put all those guys, I think, ahead of Tim Hardaway if you're going to try to compare Dorian for sure, one guy to Deshaun Stevenson. But he said because he was willing to come off the bench, and became a super sub, basically, became a really high quality sub, is what Carlisle said. And he's willing to go in the starting lineup. Wherever they need him to be, he can go and play. And when they needed him to come off the bench in this game, he did. And so he compared him to Deshaun Stevenson that way. Games are obviously very different, but in the way that they handled it, I think it was great. So that's high praise, I think, especially during that run.
I love how 2011, it got mentioned twice tonight. Rick talked about Deshaun in that. Luca incorporated 2011 into one of his answers about just motivation, the team's goals. And
yeah, I'm
great. Like, what are the teams who haven't won a title? What do they, revert back to for?
The Hawks apparently don't do anything because they just went and got beat by the Knicks. So,
Knicks, James Harden team, let's go. But I do think it's kind of cool how 2011 seems like it's consistently brought.
It's the reference point, which is great,
and everybody looks forward to that. So, but yeah, something with the Tim Hardaway move too that I made a note at the beginning. This wasn't we'll talk more about the Willie Dwight thing here in a second, but that was a kind of a natural thing, a big for a big. Willie, Dwight, they're both the center position. They totally swapped out Tim Hardaway Jr. for Maxey, which is, not the same position. So I was really intrigued with them going big, but also, keeping the 3-point shooting too, and Maxey, because he's technically the best 3-point shooter on the team right now.
Yeah, or he was before this game.
That's true, before Tim's 8 for 10 game. But Maxey only attempted one shot tonight. It's like, what a different type of role for him going to the starting unit. He's okay, sure, excited. But then he only gets one shot, and it was a 3-point shot. But it's just wild to see how he goes into the starting unit. He doesn't shoot much. Tim goes to the bench, and Tim is firing on all cylinders. I mean, he does that as a starter too. But he was hitting shots and stuff and having a big night. It's just wild to think how roles change and all of that.
Yeah, that was a really interesting move, I thought. And let's talk about the starting lineup. So that they make that change, they go with size. It added a really interesting dynamic where, and Jeff Skin Wade mentioned this on the broadcast. If you were able to watch the Mavs broadcast, I know a lot of people were stuck with the Rockets broadcast, and our condolences. Our condolences if you have to watch that Rockets broadcast. It is brutal, man. Just cannot anytime. The interesting thing was Maxey was guarding Christian Wood, and that put Willie Cauley-Stein on PJ Tucker, and Tucker thrives in the corner. He lives in that corner. So Willie Cauley-Stein was the weak side defender, and so he was able to get in some passing lanes. He was able to just come and bring some help defense when Maxey was guarding one-on-one. And so that turned out to be really good. I wish they would looked at that more, but Maxey got in foul trouble early. He had 4 fouls pretty quick, and he ended the game with 5, only played 18 minutes, like you said. So they had to deal with that. But I like that lineup, especially if the bigs are going to be role-type guys like Christian Wood and not going to be your post-up variety like Joel Embiid or somebody like that. Which the Mavericks have no answer for that anyway. But I like that kind of a lineup. It obviously worked in this game. Willie Cauley-Stein was a revelation just with his ability to finish lobs. And Christian Wood got all turned. Luca turned Christian Wood all around in this game. I mean, some of it was kind of embarrassing the way that he glided. And I tweeted out one of the plays, and Luca comes at him from the left side. Christian Wood, it's just him in the basket between Luca, and Luca sidesteps him to the left and then comes around to the right and just completely sidesteps him again. Christian Wood is like spinning, like trying to stay vertical and just stay there, and Luca just gets the ball over top of him. It was wild to see Luca just take advantage of him, with Luca looking like he does right now, just kind of out of shape, looks a little overweight, and then Christian Wood's like this high class athlete, like next level athlete guy with super long arms. It just looks really funny to see Luca take advantage of a guy like that. But Luca was able to take advantage of them with Willie Cauley-Stein's verticality. And the difference between him and Dwight Powell is big again. But adding Maxey, I think that covers up a lot of Willie Cauley-Stein's weaknesses, because you can't just do straight Willie Cauley-Stein for Dwight Powell. We've never asked for that on this. Like, we've never mentioned that as a possibility on this podcast, because I don't think that would work as well, right? Willie Cauley-Stein still has a bunch of weaknesses, and he was able to cover a lot of those tonight, but Maxey definitely helps.
Yeah, he definitely helps. It's weird that it was Houston, because I feel like that's been the running joke forever of like, oh, well, when you play Houston and it's like the small ball and everybody just associates you. And like Houston was the game that they're like, we're going to go big, we're going to zag. And when, on this, but Maxey is kind of this, he's a big, but he's literally a 3-and-D guy. It's kind of a weird way. It's hard to describe Maxey Kleber if you're not like a Mavs person, because like we said the other day, he's only attempted like 3 shots that are not threes all year so far. So he's legit 3-and-D, and he's good at both of them. But yeah, I mean, the Willie switch for Dwight played 14 minutes tonight. That's his lowest, minute total for the entire season so far. There was a big difference having Willie in there.
Could have been less.
It could have been less.
Coming up, let's get into some more of this game. Break down some of the wild referee stuff. I mean, there's just some weird stuff all around. Talk more about Luca. Get into that coming up. But before we do, Isaac Harris, they're back. RockAuto.com. The one reason to maintain or repair your car, if you're looking for something, the ever-increasing number of makes and models, you have all kinds of stuff now. And you're just not going to find every single part you need at a brick and mortar store, at a place that you just walk up to, at a dealership. You're not going to find all that stuff, or it's going to be way overpriced. But it's not going to be at rockauto.com. They're a family business serving auto parts to customers online for 20 years. They've been on this. This is the podcast that has been on it for the longest for the Mavericks, and you have Rock Auto has been on it for the longest online. They have everything that you need, from engine control modules, brake parts, tail lamps, motor oils, even new carpet. So whether it's your classic or your daily driver, get everything you need in a few easy clicks, delivered directly to your door. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to get out of the house. I don't want to do that right now anyway. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box. They know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into the rest of this game. So the Mavericks win this. We've talked about sort of the ways that they did it. They finished 16 of 39 from 3, 41%. Without Tim Hardaway, though, they would go 8 of 29. Not as good of a percentage. They would go 8 of 29. That's 27.5%, which would have matched the Rockets' percentage exactly, which is actually kind of hilarious. But they make the change. The Mavericks bigs are so weird, right? They're so different. And this is kind of the case with a lot of big men in the NBA now. There's not as many traditional big men. Like, I guess Joel Embiid is the guy that keeps coming up for me. You think about some of the best big men in the NBA. Anthony Davis is just not a traditional big man, even though he can do all the traditional big man things. He does so many other things. Giannis would normally be a big man, but he's not now. Kevin Durant would normally be one. But there's so many just distinct different guys. You have Maxey, who's a 3-and-D guy, right? He can guard on the perimeter. He can guard in the post, but he plays and shoots the 3, so he just stands out on the 3. He's not going to post up. He's not even going to take any 2s. He took a 2-point jumper in the last game. We were all shocked, right? Yeah. And you asked him about it after the game. Willie Cauley-Stein is this guy that, he catches lobs and he's in there, but he's not going to be able to defend in the post, right? Like, he's a huge guy, but he doesn't defend in the post well. So if anybody's bigger than him, which a lot of people are, they can overpower him. Dwight Powell is a guy that's supposed to have verticality, but then he doesn't defend in the post either. So he defends out on the perimeter a little bit better than in the post. So they all have to kind of be played in these combinations and figure out the right way. It's just a very limited group right now, especially with Porzingis out. And a lot of these teams that the Mavericks have played win with speed, and so you can't play Boban because he would just get completely exposed against a guy like Harden, guys like Zach LaVine, guys like that. And so that's sort of the problem with Boban. I know people have been asking for him to get some more time. So that's the Mavericks situation is. But
it's the bullpen. It's the bullpen approach to the center position that we've said so many times.
It's a limited bullpen now, though, because of Porzingis' injury, and like that's really limiting.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like keeping with the baseball analogy, it's kind of like a team who doesn't have a closer. And it's like you see some of these teams sometimes are back when I was younger when baseball was actually cool and not super boring. That I would see
shots fired at a whole sport.
I'm sorry, make your sport exciting again. And that I would remember teams who don't have a closer and just see them throw out there like relievers left and right, and they're just like it's like one batter, it's like here's another reliever, because they didn't have like a lockdown closer to just like end the ball game, so they're throwing these different relievers out based on the hitters. That's where Dallas is at right now, because our closer is Porzingis, that's our main guy, but we're in the ninth and we're throwing out these different relievers, we're throwing out these different centers that to match these other teams, and that's just the spot we're at. So I think it's naturally going to be a complaining part for, Mavs fans, because these guys are not Porzingis. That's just the spot that we're in right now. So, yeah, I mean, you went through all of it. All of them have their weaknesses, but Willie tonight, I mean, you couldn't help it. I mean, the first week of the season, we were sitting on this pod saying, in limited minutes, it's at least intriguing to see Willie out there. He makes some bad mistakes. He doesn't make the right decisions sometimes. When Dwight makes a lot of the better decisions, I would say. But Willie just right now, you can just. I'm saying I think Willie has the higher upside when it comes to just.
He has the capability to do the things that, are right on the basketball court. Dwight does not have the capability right now to do right things on the basketball court, even though sometimes he makes the right decisions. But he just.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I think Willie's talent is better than Dwight's right now, but Dwight, like he's just. We've went over this 1,000 times. I just think Willie brings something to this team that the other guys don't bring. And you saw it from the opening tip. You saw it when, Luca said tonight when bragging on Willie, he got out and he went running, on the floor. And I mean, that full court pass that Luca, hit Willie for on the dunk and that fast break. I thought Tim Hardaway summed it up great tonight too for, I think, everybody. He said, when he was asked about Willie, he wasn't asked about Dwight, but he when bragging on Willie, he said the line, he goes, "No knock on DP. He's a good player and a veteran." And it's like, you want to like, hey, it's no knock on DP. Like Dwight Powell's a good guy. He's a great vet on this team, but Willie's just better right now. And that's just point blank. That's where it's at.
Some people say when you talk, everything before but is garbage, right?
I mean,
some people say that. I'm not saying we say that. I'm not saying I'm saying that about you, but some people would say.
No, Dwight Powell is a great human being, and he's a great veteran.
Has nothing to do with on the court stuff. On the court stuff, he's
looking anything with on the court. I just said he's a good player and a good veteran on the team. I don't think that's a lie.
Speaking of looking rough on the court, James Johnson did not have a great game in this one. We got another flagrant foul for James Johnson. He was minus 22 in the game, which is just. Like, that's wild that he was that bad. The whole bench looked really bad, by the way. Brunson didn't play that great. Trey Burke had one of his worst games this season.
Outside of Tim, take Tim out of that. When Nick is saying the bench unit, you're talking about the non-Luca, non-Tim lineups, basically.
Yeah, basically. Pretty much everyone else. So should they stick with this lineup? That's the big question. Should Willie, Cauley, Stein and Maxey continue to be the starters? The next game the Mavericks play is Denver. Denver has been starting Jokic and Millsap together. And then after that, the Mavericks have Orlando. They start, Aaron Gordon and Vooch together. And then they have the Pelicans who start Zion Williamson and Steven Adams. So that's the next three matchups. I think they can. I think they keep this unless they start Boban and hope that he gets the same magic he did in the game before the bubble stopped or the bubble started.
Yeah, I think they keep it unless they want to give Boban some minutes with it. Just because Jokic is a monster, and whoever you throw out, like he's just gonna bully ball.
Dimes on everybody.
Yeah, Willie and Maxey with that. So. Yeah, I'm looking forward. I think they do keep it. I think there is something there. You played so well, and like Rick said, when you hold a Houston Rockets team to 100 or right under 100, that's a positive thing. So I think you got to ride it for now and see what happens. And you hope you see Kristaps Porzingis on the floor in a week or so.
Oh, I hope so. I was thinking the beginning of January, and it is the beginning of January.
Yes.
It's like Kevin going to Pam when she's trying to put the copier together. Like, Pam, you said this copier would be ready now, and it is soon. And then Pam looks at him and says, what does soon mean to you? Soon could be an hour. Soon could be 2 weeks. And then she says, we'll come back soon. That's what the Porzingis injury has felt like. Come back soon. Your definition of soon is whatever it is. That's what it is.
I love when you make offense references. It's my favorite. It's better than Avatar. I just want shout out to James Johnson. Is I don't even know what is it called, a stat line or whatever for the beginning of the season. It's the same that I texted to you, but he has 2 techs, 2 flagrant fouls, and an ejection in 6 games.
And we wouldn't have it any other way.
James Johnson, the era in Dallas is just beginning.
We mentioned the refs went crazy. There's not really anything to say. The middle of the second and the middle of the third were just awful. Like just awful basketball.
Daryl Armstrong.
How did we not lead with this? I said on Twitter that
what?
Luca had like 20 points at halftime, and that was the 7th most notable thing to happen. Daryl Armstrong gets called for a technical. Assistant coach Daryl Armstrong. He's in the 2nd row. He's not even in the 1st row on the bench. He's wearing a mask. He's sitting in the back. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. How does that guy get a technical foul wearing a mask? What could he have possibly said is my question. How does that happen? He gets a tech. Luca almost got 2 techs. Boogie Cousins got completely kicked out under ridiculous pretenses. It was a wild game. The refs were trying to get control, but they were like trying to control something they didn't need to control, and so it just got out of control for them. They got out of control. What do you do when the refs get out of control, right? Refs tighten up the game and call the game tighter when it gets out of control on their end. But if it gets out of control from the refs' end, what happens? Nature has to balance itself out, Isaac.
It wasn't even that it wasn't even that like chippy. I mean, you see some of that crap happen after a fight or after a really big like scuffle or something. You had a Cousins Willie put your hand on me, almost slap it off, and then they double tech it. And then it was just dumb techs the whole time. I just didn't get it.
6 technical fouls in a game where nobody punches somebody is ridiculous. It should never happen, right? There's no reason for that. It's just like if you throw your arms up and yell at the ref, you got to have thicker skin than that, man. Like,
people aren't out there paying $85 a month for AT&T now just for 6 techs. Okay, we don't care about you.
Shouts to Kane Fitzgerald. He got injured in the game in a different game. So,
I was like, he was in tonight? I didn't even
No, he wasn't him, but he got hurt. It was the first time I've ever heard a ref get hurt in a game. So thoughts and prayers to Kane Fitzgerald. He was in spirit in this Rockets game. All right, anything else you want to talk about this game? I mean, there's so many other things we could have got to, but yeah.
No, I mean, this was a much needed bounce back win. I feel like it just continues right now, this roller coaster of a start of the season of a super high moments like beating the Clippers by 50 to then losing to the Hornets at home. You're like, what the crap's going on? And then we lose to the Bulls, which we know Luca and KP didn't play. And then you come back and beat the Rockets with James Harden and you beat them pretty decisively. So, I mean, now they fly back to Dallas last night. They have an off day. Then they'll probably practice on the day before they play the Nuggets. And that's going to be, I think, a big game right off the bat because Denver's kind of struggling to the beginning season like Dallas has. So that should be a really good game at home for Dallas.
Yeah, Denver plays the Timberwolves on Tuesday, so go listen to Locked On Nuggets. They have a really good show with Matt Moore, HP Basketball, and Adam Mares. So go listen to them if you want to hear more about them. Check out that. Also, go listen to Locked On NBA. Wes Goldberg and David Ramil, Locked On Heat, Locked On Warriors host, not in that order. They're the biggest stories of the day, coast to coast. Subscribe to Locked On NBA podcast wherever you get your pods. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.